Hello and welcome to Madam Speaker by Hilmer's Network, the podcast taking a deep dive as we sit down with female candidates ahead of the next federal election. I am Charlotte Mortlock and we are joined in studio today by the wonderful Mary Aldred, the Liberal candidate for the seat of Monash. Mary, thank you so much for coming in today.
It's really good to be here. Thanks, Charlotte.
So I don't know too much about Monash, so tell me a little bit about the seat and the area.
Well, Monash is a federal electorate named after Sir John Monash, who in my view is Australia's greatest ever citizen.
You're not biased?
Not biased at all. He, of course, is known for his strategic brilliance and bravery on the battlefield, but also when he returned to Australia, his civic contribution was enormous. He was the inaugural chair of the State Electricity Commission in the Latrobe Valley, which is part of the Monash electorate. He did a lot of other things as well. And so it's named in his honour. The Gippsland region, so Gippsland has a few different meanings.
Is it the Gippsland or is it
No.
Gippsland region?
No.
Do a lot of people do that?
Yeah, they do actually, because there's the Hunter, right? So
Yes.
I think it's a New South Wales thing. People come to Gippsland or Victoria and they're like, oh, it's great to be
Show
in the
that we're
Gippsland. And I'm like,
amateur.
it's Gippsland.
Drop the Okay, good.
So named after Governor Gibbs, and it's a region. It's also a federal electorate division, which is represented so well by the amazing Darren Chester from the Nats, who's a great guy. So Gippsland as a region is the size of Switzerland. It's huge.
Wow.
And we do so many things so very well. We don't have all our eggs in one basket. We have obviously about 85% of Victoria's power generation from the Latrobe Valley. We've got about 60% of Melbourne's water that comes from Gippsland, a huge amount of horticulture, vegetables. Potato capital of Australia is Thorpedale. And we've got snow peas in Wonthaggi, fresh asparagus in Kooyrup, which gets flown to places like Japan, I think on a daily basis. Wow. And our best asset is our people. We're very smart, very clever, very resilient people as well.
Such a diversified area.
It is. It is. We've got Phillip Island. There's Phillip Island Nature Parks, which pre-COVID, over 1 million international ticketed visitors a year. And it's a very unique, diverse electorate. So Phillip Island is very different to, say, West Gippsland, Druin and Warrigal, different to Moe. Moe is part of the Latrobe Valley, and part of the Latrobe Valley is in Darren's electorate of Gippsland, but Moe, the township, Moe Newborough, that's in Monash. So very unique, diverse communities.
Amazing. So you obviously kind of live there now. Whereabouts do you live?
I live in Warrigal, which is West Gippsland. Okay. Warrigal is wild dog, actually, in the local Indigenous language. There's lots of local Indigenous namesakes, and that's one of them. But Monash as an electorate, you really do need to know, I think, every blade of grass in every town and community, because each is so different.
And so just to kind of help me wrap my head around it, like how long would it take to travel from the area where you live to Melbourne?
It takes me about 1 hour and 20 from Warrigal on a good day. The Monash car park, the Monash freeway, which is another Monash namesake. That's the M1 into Melbourne. Depends on how that is travelling, which can have good days and very, very bad days. But Gippsland's so big that, you know, in East Gippsland, which is in Darren's electorate, that's 4 hours, away from so varying differences.
And tell me a little bit about your childhood. Did you grow up in the area?
I grew up in Upper Beaconsfield, which is near Pakenham, and that used to be the gateway to Gippsland, which has kind of changed a little bit in its borders. But I had a great childhood growing up on a small farm. My parents ran an equestrian centre as a small business. It was a family-run business.
Wow, an equestrian centre.
Yeah.
So is that like pony clubs, or is that like more professional kind of older people? Like what's
all sorts. So we had kids lessons and riding clinics. We adjusted, looked after horses. We had elite riders. And I left school for a time at 15. I worked full time in my parents' business. I dropped out of school. Which took some convincing, but the agreement was I had to do some form of continuous learning. So I enrolled in Farm Management Studies Certificate at what was Macmillan Training, now Community College Gippsland in Warrigal. But it was great, Some days were harder than others, especially the days that you're carting hay in 40-degree heat or doing feed runs in the freezing rain, but it taught me a lot.
And so, I feel like I don't know the statistics on this, and maybe it's just kind of my own perception, but I feel like there aren't as many people who drop out of school kind of at 15 or 16 anymore. And this could be a controversial view, but I feel like there's too many people that go to university and not enough people who want to do the trades. Are you, now having had the very successful career you have had, are you happy that you left school at 15?
Yeah, I am. I've done both. So I left school at 15. I ended up going back and completing high school and did a BA Hons and a Masters of Agribusiness and an MBA just to make up for lost time. But I always think it's all right if your goalposts change in life, as long as you've got goalposts. And I had goalposts that were just as strong at 15, that I was doing things that I loved, working with animals and on the farm, as I do now in a different direction.
Do you still horse ride?
No, I did jump on a friend's horse at a barbecue about 5 years ago after dinner and cantered it around the grass. But no, I haven't recently.
I was very nervous when you said after dinner. I was like, oh, this story is going to take, that's good. So then kind of which point, you went back to university and those things, but when did you move into kind of Gippsland? You said you were raised kind of near the border.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved really with the Gippsland region since I was 15, since I did that farm management studies. I worked, when I was 21, I worked as an electorate officer to Russell Broadbent, who was in the federal member for Macmillan, now Monash. That was a great experience. I've worked on the boards of Lifeline, Gippsland and Latrobe Regional Hospital in my 20s, which gave me a great understanding and appreciation of health and mental health issues in the region. So lots of different things.
So I wanted to ask you later in the episode kind of what got you into politics, but just because you've mentioned it, 21 is a very young age to have an interest in politics. And it sounds like you kind of were brought up with that sense of community and service.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate to say that?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I loved reading the newspaper and I was always really interested in current affairs and world politics and all of that sort of thing. When I was, I think, 20, I wrote to every United States senator on the Foreign Relations Subcommittee on Asia and the Pacific and said, would you take me as an intern? I was at Monash University at the time. And so I did a stint for 2 months in Washington, D.C. with Bill Nelson, who's a Democrat from Florida, who's now the head of NASA. So that was incredible. So I've had all these little opportunities along the way that have inspired interest, but also just expanded my passion for the region and the communities that are there that are just amazing.
And so was it kind of always then from your early 20s that you wanted to be a politician yourself, or was it always kind of working in politics but weren't sure if you would go in yourself?
Much more the latter. I've always had an interest in politics and I think for me it's been a natural progression. I love the region so much. I see so much potential for us. We've got some big challenges as well. And I think in my 20s and my 30s, getting involved in things like Lifeline Gippsland or Basketball League, that, has been a natural progression beyond. And Committee for Gippsland very much as an advocacy organisation, taking that as far as I possibly could, advocating for infrastructure and better health services. And you get to a point where you think, well, I've advocated as hard as I possibly can in this organisation for the region. What more can I possibly do?
And at that point, it's like I need to go in and try and do legislation and rally for my community in Parliament. You kind of touched on it there, but you did mention earlier that you thought there were challenges for Gippsland. Is that kind of mainly healthcare and infrastructure that you referenced?
More broadly as well. So, for example, we have a couple of years ago, I haven't checked the stats more lately, but a couple of years ago at least, we had nearly double below the state's average for higher education participation rates. Now, that's not just university attainment, that's higher education. So I want to improve education outcomes because I think that directly correlates to better skills for the region, higher incomes and more prosperity for people. There's a range of other things as well. We have a very proud record of feeding and watering and providing electricity and resources for the rest of our state and Australia. And I don't always think that's understood, and because it's not understood, it's not adequately respected.
Yeah, it sounds like Gippsland is really doing a lot of heavy lifting for
We
the
are.
country.
We sure do. We sure do.
So in 2018, you were announced as a winner of the Australian Financial Review's Boss Young Executive of the Year. Is that the real name of the award?
It is.
The Boss Young.
Yeah. Boss
Wow.
Magazine, which is
You're like a boss lady before it was like even a thing.
yeah. No, Boss Magazine is run by the Australian Financial Review, and they have had this competition for, I'm not sure how long, but quite a while. And I think it's a great thing because it identifies, fosters, and develops
Up-and-comers.
talent within young executives. My brother James, who's always been really supportive and encouraging of me, he kind of pushed me into nominating, and I thought I don't have a snowball's chance in hell of progressing, but I did, and I made the finalists, and then we had a day in Sydney where we had to do these interviews and psychometric testing and a whole range of activities that left my brain absolutely fried by the end of it. And I thought, that was intense. And then I was announced as a winner. So it was a great privilege.
And so what exactly had you done to be getting that kind of coveted boss lady title for?
So I think at the time I might have been 37 or just turned 38. I'd been founding CEO of Committee for Gippsland. So that was a great experience in starting something from nothing. And for anyone that's been involved in a startup, either in the not-for-profit sector or run their own business, some days just getting a sign painted or a fine line connected is an achievement in the early days. Totally. But taking that, to over 100 member businesses from healthcare organisations, the university, businesses, and really getting all our ducks in a row as a region, working with local government, the RDA committee, saying these are the priorities that we want for our region to state and federal governments. So doing that, and then I'd done that for 7.5 years and I loved it. It's the best job I've ever had. Present one excluded perhaps, but I really loved Committee for Gippsland. Would have been more than happy to keep going, but I thought I really am looking for a new challenge, and I wanted to answer that question for myself. Can I step up and do something bigger and actually help out as well? And at the time, you might remember sort of 2018, franchising was on the front page of most newspapers every second day for a whole set of really bad reasons. Franchisees going into a business, having a really bad experience. And the Franchise Council of Australia, the peak industry body, were advertising for a new CEO. And I rang up a friend and I said, do you think I'm nuts for wanting to apply for this job? Like, the sector's in turmoil. And he said, no, go for it, because that question, what more can I contribute? You need to answer that question for yourself. And so I did, and I got the job, and I had a baptism of fire. There's nothing like being able to learn about a new industry sector by appearing before a Senate inquiry 2 months into a new job on behalf of the sector. But very rapidly taught me some great things around listening to stakeholders, appreciating that there were really big problems that needed to be addressed, and not just saying, oh, yeah, there's a host of problems here, but how are you going to fix it? How are you going to address it? So I was very early on into that, and that's kind of what I'd done up until the AFR Boss Magazine process.
And that's you met a friend of the pod, Senator Maria Kovacic, in that position as well.
I did. So I actually didn't know she was a Liberal Party member or involved in politics at the time, but one of the reforms I said we needed to do as a Franchise Council of Australia, as an organisation, was I said, biggest criticism is we don't engage or listen to or represent franchisees enough, and we've got no franchisees on the board. We've got to have franchisees on the board. So convinced the board to open nominations for franchisees to join the board. Before that, I'd set up a franchisee advisory committee to actually tell us as an organisation, what are you grappling with? How do you think we should improve the sector? All of those things. And Maria was an ANZ mobile lending franchisee in New South Wales. She got involved in the New South Wales state chapter of the Franchise Council, and I was just so impressed with her. She's got an amazing background of business experience, but as I'm sure you've seen, Maria can come into a room with a lot of very complicated, detailed issues. She can be in a room full of a few hotheads, and her calmness.
Yeah, she's so calm.
So calm.
Calm but strong.
Calm and strong.
I don't have that. I'm a bit more emotional.
She's amazing. She's amazing. And she went onto the board and just her calmness, but also her resolve in tricky, challenging issues with very strong personalities. She never had to raise her voice or, make a big song and dance about things to get her point across.
Yeah.
But the way she was able to win respect from mostly men in that room, I am still in awe of.
Yeah. Well, I think you have a very similar disposition, like a strong but calm and very level-headed kind of disposition.
I've been able to watch and learn from people like Maria.
So tell me a little bit about more recently kind of your role in your kind of professional career and corporations.
So I did the role with the Franchise Council of Australia for 4.5 years, and that was almost three different jobs in one job, really. Yeah. One was rebuilding the organisation and reforming the organisation, which it really needed. The other part was responding to the Senate inquiry and implementing the reforms. You can't just say you're going to do something and then let it whittle away. You've actually got to drive that implementation. So they were two parts. And then, of course, there was COVID. And most franchisees, like nearly 100%, certainly in the high 90%, are small businesses. And so whether they were mobile dog groomers or retail outlets or hairdressers, through COVID, you had, as you remember, almost daily changing of business regulations. And so we had a big role to play there working with state governments on those regulations and helping to inform different small business members. And then when they were completely unworkable and just not practical, going back to government and saying, look, this is ridiculous.
We can't do it.
Yeah, so I did that for 4.5 years, got through COVID, and I thought I'm really ready for a change.
Yeah.
And the opportunity came up with Fujitsu, and I thought, wow, I really have never worked in technology before. What a great opportunity.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your role in Fujitsu, because I think people's perception of what Fujitsu does and what it is doing at the moment is quite different.
Yeah, so when I started with Fujitsu, a few people said, you're going to work for an air conditioning company.
Yeah.
And I said, no. I think they're part of the same global company based in Japan, but the area of the business that I work for is a technology company. We do a lot in cybersecurity, working with government and the private sector, a whole range of different technology applications. So that's been incredible, and I'm grateful for so much of what I've been able to learn.
And so talk me through cybersecurity. I mean, the current threats in this kind of climate, are we already in a state of kind of having a bit of cyber warfare? Are people unbeknownst to that?
I've always been drawn to industries where there are very, very consequential businesses involved. So I worked for the energy industry for a bit in my 20s and 30s because you can't wake up every morning without needing electricity, right? It's sustainability, affordability, reliability. It impacts so much of our day-to-day lives. And I feel the same way about cybersecurity now. For different reasons. From a defence point of view and the Asia-Pacific region, making sure we've got a strong, secure region, working with partners and allies like New Zealand, Japan, that is hugely important, especially with critical infrastructure assets at a government level. At a consumer level, I think it's so important. I mean, we read every day about scams and hacking, and that has...
I got defrauded last night.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
But no, it's fine. The bank got it straight away.
Yeah,
so quick.
Banks have really, really stepped up on technology.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I had to reply like no to a text and they just did everything.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they're very, very quick. But that's a great example of just how consequential cybersecurity is for people's financial protection, their health records.
Yeah.
There's been some really high-profile hacking recently that has put people in some really terrible predicaments. So at a consumer level, it's really important. And then at a broader technology level, AI and some of that stuff is a big new technology that's coming in fast. Some of those AI things have been around, like Bluetooth and predictive text, for a while. but there's other parts of AI that are coming in very quickly. I think we need to get our heads around it as a country. Government need to get their head around it. Members of Parliament need to get their head around it. It's not enough to just say, oh, it's big, it's scary, we don't understand it.
Yes.
You can't stop
Bury
it.
your head in the sand.
We need guardrails. We need appropriate guardrails around that technology. But also, like a lot of new technology, there is a profound opportunity for good, from food security to mental health to so many things. So that's why I'm fascinated by it.
And so do you think that Australia's in a better position now with cybersecurity? Have you seen an improvement in the past few years? Are you confident?
Certainly the private sector generally are leading that charge. We are one of the most targeted countries, I think, in the OECD, and that ranges from, Russian street gangs to North Korea use the proceeds of hacking for a whole lot of terrible motivations. So we need to keep upskilling. There's a lot of research. We've got some great universities here that are doing some amazing research, working with the private sector and government, but we cannot afford to take our foot off the pedal.
So cybersecurity is obviously a natural fit for you in Parliament, for an area that, you would really like to stick your teeth into. If you are, lucky enough to have the honour of being the member for Monash following the federal election, what are some other kind of things that you'd like to focus on? It can be local issues or more broadly.
Yeah, look, Gippsland region, the Monash electorate obviously is my first and always consideration in everything that I do. And if I have the great opportunity and privilege of being elected as their next member, I'm going to advocate every single day for local issues. But I think also small business. I've dedicated a really big chunk of my working life to standing up for small business owners. I've never run a small business myself, but working for my parents in a family-run business, I know what it's like to look at your parents doing BAS statements at, 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, taking phone calls from customers and clients outside of hours, working around the clock to deliver what they need to and always putting their staff first. So I want to be a really strong advocate for small business. We, I think, say a lot of platitudes and cliches around it being the engine room of the Australian economy, but it really is. It's a very large employer for people right across the country. And small business owners don't ask for a lot. They get out of bed every day and they put their house on the line to give other people a shot at a job. And I think when you look at especially regional communities, but any community, the local footy club sponsorship, the service organisations like Rotary, it's often small business owners that are front and centre of contributing and getting involved. So that's another area I want to give a red hot go to.
Just I want to ask you a couple of quick questions to finish out on. So we spoke before about Gippsland and kind of the amazing culinary experiences there. I'd like to know a couple of recommendations. If I was to make my way down there, what's like a must try, must see, must do, must taste?
We've got everything. And the great thing about our region, about the Monash electorate, is that lots of things are grown locally and prepared with, I think, expertise and great care. So I'd say stop off at Messmates, which is a type of timber, but it's also a nice shout out to, team members that work together and eat together. So Messmates in Warragul, that's run by Jess and Chris, a husband and wife team that have done some amazing ventures together. There's a few ex-Vudamond chefs working in there. Everything's seasonally grown. Even the herbs, Chris's dad, I think, grows some of those. So nice. Amazing, terrific wine list. I'd say go to Wild Dog Winery. Very, very nice Chardonnay.
Wild Dog. And that's, as you said, the...
Well done. Yes. Yeah. Another namesake.
Yeah.
There's some other amazing wineries. I'll probably give a shout out to Bellvale, which make the best value Pinot Noir in Australia. They're in Berries Creek, South Gippsland. Incredible story of that couple that have created that.
Yep.
And then I would say farmers markets, we do so very well. I was at Leongatha on the weekend. There's one at Coal Creek in Curramborough. Yarragon, Trafalgar, all over the place.
Just lots of yummy, fresh.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. You've got people like the Invi Baker, the Inverloch Baker. He'll go round to a few of them. Terrific breads, fresh made, produce, and our bakeries. We've got, I was with Darren at Thornton's Bakery in Leongatha a few weeks ago. That's great. Yarragon Bakery. Bakeries we specialise in Monash and Gippsland. It's that you cannot go past a bad one.
Amazing. That sounds like I need to do a trip there.
You should.
Final question. Obviously, Hilma's has a focus on women. I would like to know a woman that inspires you.
My sister Lucy, she's 5 years younger than me. She has forged a very successful career as a corporate lawyer. She's got two gorgeous little kids, Annabelle and George. I'm godmother to Annabelle, which I'm very proud of. Amazing husband, Phil, who's really supportive of her career. But I am in awe of what she does in juggling her work, her family, and I just want to support her in any way I can. And I think there's a lot of Marys that have sisters like Lucy around Australia, and if I have the great privilege of being elected, I think just supporting women getting back into the workplace, but also wanting that work-life family balance is something I'm pretty keen on. So Lucy's my hero.
Yeah, I've got a sister, Heidi, who I'm very fond of, and Mum always said that the best gift in life is a sister.
It is.
Yes.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Well, Mary, thank you so much for coming on Madam Speaker. We really appreciate it, and good luck in the upcoming election.
Thanks so much, Charlotte.
Authorised by C. Mortlock, Hilma's Network Foundation Limited, Sydney.